Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here. Not quite in Mendham, but close enough, I suppose. So, yes, this might be a video, this psychology stuff maybe. This effort to communicate with other people, humans, and the difficulty. There's no generic language, no common language, I suppose, anymore. Not that there ever was, I suppose. I mean, people really were very different for, a long time. Yeah. Sorry, it's hard to get going. Anyway, so some of that maybe. Yeah, just why perspectives branch so dramatically, and it's just a horrible obstacle to, trying to connect to the things that should be common, the common truths of existence, and that everybody should be aware of. It's like some things people don't have to be aware of. It's like I'm sort of aware of concrete, just because I've worked with it. So when I was a kid and I walked down a sidewalk, you noticed expansion joints only because they stuck out a little more, the gap was wider, or some other reason you'd say, what's that? Why has the sidewalk got that in it? But you didn't really understand. And now I see all of it. I end up counting how many fake expansion joints, they just kind of draw them in. Just to make it all look like little squares when it's not really little squares of concrete. And, I know, well, now they're doing 5 in a row with no expansion joint, and that seems kind of stupid because that's doomed to failure. And so you're aware of that failure. You're aware that that's not the right way to do it, and, because you gain this experience and knowledge. And stuff like that you become aware of, and it's irritating that you're aware of it because it's distracting you from something more pleasant. Just knowing too much, thinking too much, seeing too much, you could argue, is a dangerous thing. In other cases, it's kind of can enhance your view, in the sense that people often use examples where a flower is pretty, but it can mean more. Sorry, no voice, allergies maybe. I'll do something about it. I'll have a cough and see if that helps. Sorry, shit happens. All right, we'll see if this is any better. La 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 la. Well, anyway. So you can see more. If you know more about the flower, then it's even more beautiful if you know how the structure is made and the blah 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 blah. So I suppose it can work both ways, but I guess the point is it's just part of the branches getting further away is just the fact that the volume of what you can know can be so different, and you have specialty knowledges, and specialty fears, and specialty paranoias, and specialty all that kind of crap. So anyway, this whole psychology thing comes up just because some people are showing up who have always been a bit nutty, a bit different, on a different branch, and and it just happens all the time where you see these people crash and burn and all these different things that happen, and and you just wonder, well, I don't know if you wonder, see, that's the whole point, I wonder, about how some people are vulnerable to complete changes in perspective, like the fake Sagan example, from atheist to, I just can't think of any words today, my vocabulary is very, very thin. Orthodox, Catholic or whatever. Just bizarre, Can't figure out how brains can go that crookedy. be branching one way and then all of a sudden go exactly the opposite direction kind of thing. All that kind of crap just doesn't make much sense. But it all has psychological, causes, and they're real, so they should be dissectable. But I guess I would argue that unfortunately the answer won't be some generic answer, some simple answer. It'll be case specific and all of that crap. There'll be so many variables that cause it that you can't just say it's one thing. You can't profile it. And so that brings up profiling, which is this whole internet thing where they're just everything is designed to profile you, control, to manipulate to the maximum extent by playing all these, playing with what they can glean out of common psychology. Watching enough of us, they can figure out what we're going to do, and on average, and they can figure out what buttons to push. And it's just horrible that we've walked right into that 1984 kind of scenario of just being manipulated by fake bullshit. But anyway, yeah, it's just all quite horrible and tragic. So, Terry Strange, who used to be Non Sequitur or something, she had some kind of weird name. But anyway, I'm just not going to remember them. It's just funny that some people are showing up. I haven't seen in a while. Annika Skywalker, is that her joke name? O'Brien. Yeah, she left a couple of comments. I did notice. That was nice to see her. But that's another, it's just even keeping up with people. I mean, she stopped making YouTube videos, but maybe she still made videos somewhere else. Anyway, it's just, anyway, just weird. The internet's kind of a, you gotta, there's too many moving parts. So anyway, she says, remember when YouTube's features made sense? Well, I don't know if they ever made sense, but yes, they were so much better than they are now. And they've just empowered trolls. I mean, that's the funny part, is that they gave so much more power to the anonymous accounts. Because you used to be able to search comments, you'd be able to see all the comments anybody posted. You could keep tabs on people, and you couldn't create, troll accounts. It just wasn't something they let you do. They weren't viable very long. And it seems now it's just, you can call yourself anything, you can do anything. It's, just kind of sucks. But yeah, there was a lot of good features. The fact that videos were in categories, and the categories were, people were successful or unsuccessful in those categories, and there was a lot more features that made it more, especially things like the response video thing, which to me wasn't critical to have. I mean, it's nice to have little icons and stuff, and people could still post, links to response videos. But you couldn't even rely on the fact that when you posted a comment, it's actually viewable, and that's the part that's really gotten bad. Sometimes on my own videos, when I look on a tablet or some other device that doesn't know it's me, the comments on my own videos don't show up. I mean, people's comments aren't there. I mean, they're here on my channel page, but if I'm just a outside viewer, there's no comments. So, I mean, there's a lot of bullshit that we're just having to accept, and there's no way to protest anymore. There's certainly no YouTube community or of any kind. There's no, not that it had any power in the past to really tell YouTube to shove it, but we have less of that anyway. I mean, less isn't more in this case. So no, I don't. So somebody always has to put in a little snarky statement. So yes, YouTube hasn't changed at all in 10 years. You're an idiot, clearly. Anyway, YouTube from 2005-2009 had a more sensible overlay, minimalism philosophy. See, this is, his diagnosis is just wrong, or she, whatever. It's not, there's nothing minimalistic about what YouTube has changed. I mean, the page is maximized in the sense that it's watching everything. It's watching every mouse movement, it's watching every click, it's recording every little thing you do. It's just, It's hardly minimalism in that sense. Everything's designed to glean information about who you are and what you want in life. Has ruined the design of YouTube. It makes shit more complicated. What makes shit more complicated is the fact of how they're tracking everything you do, but they're certainly not scrutinizing what you do. They just don't care. So anyway, it's a comment. If it's worth reading, it's worth a little bit of discussion. That explanation of light, treating discomfort at 22 minutes, is a great summary of the thing, and very well communicated. Well, says you. Yeah. The capacity to enjoy something implies general deprivation. Well, the key thing is the way it hides the deprivation. So that's my only argument. It's like people think you have a free, good feeling, like like an orgasm or something is free, but in a sense you work up to it. And the key thing is that you just really don't realize how much tension you have until you start getting rid of it. Like, if you do any of this meditation kind of crap now and then, or even, when you're going to sleep or something, just try to do this total relaxation thing. Just let all your muscles try to fall into the earth. Just try to make yourself completely disconnected from your body or whatever. You'll find all of these little problems, these crinks and stiffnesses and places that don't move well and are even painful if you move them and stuff. So I'm just saying we have all of this tension and we're living in it all the time, and so we kind of become we're certainly not immune to its effect as a negative. I don't think. I think it's still there. I mean, I think it's what's causing me to have a vocabulary problem at the moment. Is that I do have those irritants, tired eyes and different little things that are irritating me, but they're not doing it in this fully conscious way. And so that's the capacity to make you feel better still exists. Your old wounds can be healed, and that's a source of comfort that you can think didn't need fixing. It wasn't broken, but it really was. The scar might not hurt, but it gets in the way, and once it's gone, you can feel the freedom of it, kind of thing. Anyway, i.e. your capacity to enjoy something implies better possible states. I guess that's a technical way to put it, yes. And if there's a better possible state, then you are living within a suboptimal state, yes. So that's a technical statement. It's good to have technical statements. I guess that was the key to this, is that the organism can never reach a theoretical optimum state. Well, I would say that's where it does reach it, is in states like orgasm or something, where the body does this, the sneeze, where it does this reboot, and for a moment you're kind of disconnected from sensation, from knowledge of the control mechanisms, the senses. The senses are just shut off for a while, and you have this sense of euphoria, or liberation, bliss, quiet. Yeah. So I think you can reach that optimal state. You just can't do it for very long. To put it more poetically, each moment our lungs are dissatisfied with the last breath, so we must keep breathing in and out. Well, I'd say that's not technically correct, and it's not very poetic either. It's not each moment. I mean, I think each moment is a mixture, and you get little pings of this freedom state. Anyway, no matter what state we are in, we are still not even satisfied with the last breath we took. Well, I'd call that addiction. So the point is that we're not designed to be satisfied. We're designed to be dissatisfied, because it's the dissatisfied organism that goes out and gets his dinner. and does all the other work that it takes to survive, and kills his neighbor, and all the other crap you have to do to win. So you have to be dissatisfied to do that. I wish this is just such a bad format, this stupid crap. Well, let's dismiss this crap. See if that, okay, well, it helps a little bit. I mean, all this wasted space is just so irritating. Anyway, Gary, you should make a video taking the Myers-Briggs test. You could do it for me. I mean, realistically, I have made so many videos, and even if you just saw 10 of them, you could probably get the substance of my personality, and you could probably answer a question for me correctly. I mean, I'm sitting here basically, profiling myself, telling you who I am by what I'm saying, and what I believe, and what I would hope, and what I would wish, and all that kind of crap. So you really should be able to just take the test pretending to be me, and then you could tell me what the big result is. But again, this is profiling, right? You want to take something complicated and make it and put it into a simple category. And that's okay. I mean, there are categories. There's tall and short and fat and thin, all that kind of crap. So if you want to have some category to place something in, fine. I just don't know if it's all that useful. I think it would be better if they had a test where they just wanted to find out whether you're a dark person or a light person, a fluffy person or a hard person, or whether you take things seriously or whether you're an idiot, whether you're an idiot or you're not an idiot. Why don't they just ask questions? Do you think flat Earth conspiracy theory is anything else but a silly hoax? Perpetrated just to goof on human beings, the gullible. Something like that. Some way to glean whether somebody just a preposterous fucking asshole. I mean, because they believe things are just so fucking stupid. I mean, the questions aren't that tough. I mean, you can profile people significantly. Just ask them, do you believe in fairies and angels and little floaty gods and little floaty kingdoms? What the fuck? You're an idiot then. That's all I need to know. You're a fucking idiot. Alright, his engram type is INTPJ's thing, I think. Who cares? Not whatever. Insert my name in your reply. Could you remove it, please? You had to insert my name with your reply. Well, so you're really paranoid. I mean, that's what YouTube does. The @ thing. When you hit reply, it puts the @ thing sometimes. And you have to deliberately take it out, and so you're being kind of overly. I know the whole girl on the internet thing is terrible, all the predators and such, but gotta accept some of that. So speaking of the whatever, see, my vocabulary, it's gone. I mean, I'm just looking for a simple word like for old thing that's back, nostalgia or something. But whatever, something from the past that's, hey, there it is. Anyway, so tween two, which is just horrible. Always hated that thing. It's just terrible. But anyway, so I'm not sure if you saw this before, but I wanted to post this again just in case you didn't. It won't, because it wasn't answered in the week's video, so I guess I didn't see it. Yes. Good video nonetheless, Gary. Hi, inmendham. Alright, I apologize for disappearing when I did. Well, whatever. And for so long. Well, whatever. You don't have to apologize for finding things frustrating and irritating. I know you mentioned the disrespect of certain people just disappearing a while back. Well, the only advantage you had was that you weren't exactly somebody who had been well established on YouTube. So it wasn't quite as rude as when certain other people who have accounts that people have been following for years, and then they just decide to take 6 months off without giving anybody any kind of indication of what the fuck's going on. I lost my way, and many of the videos I planned to upload. I've been watching and sharing your videos and even starting several different groups on Facebook, etc. Yeah, I don't know about different groups, but okay. May start to do videos again at some point. Not that it necessarily matters. Well, it can't hurt. You know, more is more. You know, but we have to wait and see. I hope you'll decide to do comments next week or whenever and decide to read mine. I think I read somewhere, I'm not sure, that YouTube's personal private messages are going away on September 19th. Well, they went away like last year, but whatever. Just an aside, I have a few questions inquiring your answer opinion, which you may have answered before. Oh, okay. I like... Questions are fun sometimes. What is your general view on romantic relationships? It's, you know, your place in life kind of thing. There's better as an idea than a reality. It's like everything, you know. It's the tragedy of life is that you get used to something and then it gets old and it breaks. Like you have a favorite lamp or something and it finally just goes bad, or your radio or whatever, you know, whatever it is, and it just, you know, things fall apart and go to ruin. And relationships have that problem, is they die in some way or another. Either the people in it become horrifically broken, and then the relationship is just horrible in the sense that it's burdens and all this other crap that get built into it, and having to watch somebody you care about degrade and die is just horrible. And I mean, it just doesn't get any worse, and it's just terrible. And yeah, so, but see, this is the thing. I was talking to some guys doing a little bit of work for somebody yesterday, and talking to one of the few people who can speak English in this town, and you know, it's not that it's bad though. I mean, I just didn't realize that there was so many new arrivals who just really just couldn't care less about learning how to speak English. They're fine. You know, they have a whole community of people who speak their language, and they're just not going to acclimate to being an American ever. And that's not good. I mean, I was never a big diversity person anyway, but it's a good argument against... I mean, and you can see how they just... You know, I don't want to get into the politics thing, but the whole idea of, you know, they're somewhere they were, you know, somebody told me they were going to have bilingual people at the voting place, and I'm like, that shouldn't be required. Voting is not complicated, and if you don't know enough English, all right, to get through that process, you didn't really pass your citizenship test, and you really shouldn't be voting. This is bullshit, and it's bullshit. Well, anyway. Alright, what is your personal experience dealing or not dealing with them, with women, etc.? I was just lucky in the sense that I was so, can't say I was a perfectionist, but I was so conscious of making a mistake that I was really cautious. So I didn't just jump into things. And also, you know, and so, yeah, and if you're careful, it breaks really easy, you know, because you're trying to take care of it and it breaks. I don't know what that is exactly. Well, anyway, I was just lucky in the sense that I could have made, you know, I could have made all those mistakes where you end up with herpes or something, and you're this, and I mean, you know, all kinds of tragedies. And I was just kind of sort of lucky. But I have to say, you know, the whole adolescent thing is a whole different thing. So it's just so hard to talk about it. Like, you know, you know, until you're 25 and lower is one kind of thing where, you know, your heart is so easy to break and all that kind of crap. And then later you're just, you know, oh, I don't know. You know, there's differences. It's probably too complicated to list all those differences, but there's subtle differences in your attitude. And yeah, I just wish there was, you know, it's like my expectation is relationships should be like a vacation, and you know, it's too built into this whole structure of how we have to live as individuals to survive, and you know, having a house and all this kind of crap, and you know, so it gets all ruined. So all the romantic part sort of gets destroyed by the daily life crap, and so it just sort of ruins the the fun of it. But the whole thing just is so unrealistic in the sense that you can't live in that world. You can't live in the romantic world, and you have to go back to the real world and work and do all this other kind of crap that just ruins your life. And so I don't know what to say. It's just whatever. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's dangerous. That's all I know. So you gotta get lucky. Because I didn't have a plan, and you know, and I can't say I succeeded. I succeeded enough. I mean, you know, so, but it is just a reoccurring desire, you know. So you got to understand that you can't stay, you know, when you're in that perfect place. You're just not going to be able to stay there, and that just sucks. I mean, it's a great thing, the candlelight and the this and that, and you're there, and it's perfect, and just won't stay that way, damn it. Anyway, there's this thing where a man gets parts of their scrotum surgically attached to act as a foreskin, etc. I'm just desperately silly. I mean, it's just scapegoating. You know, people are going to be dysfunctional no matter what they are, and you know, and so they're going to blame anything they can find for the dysfunction. But I would argue there's absolutely no evidence that anybody really needs any of that. I mean, that those things, those solutions ever fix anything, really. What is your opinion on all angles of this circumcision thing? I've already done the subject. Everybody gets, you know, insane. I'm perfectly satisfied being circumcised, so why would I say it's a bad idea when I think everything works just fine the way it is? And I just don't see any advantage. There's no desire inside of me to say, let me put this extra crap on top of my, you know, why do I want to do that? And why do I want the implications of it, which are you're basically always fucking your own foreskin. You know, you never get to fuck anything else. I just don't see any advantages, and I can't find a disadvantage. And then you got the whole disease thing and everything else that's advantages on my side, and the smegma and all the other crap that can happen. I mean, why should I think it's any point in leaving it natural? You know, that's like a hair under a woman's arm. I mean, you know, ideally, if we could just snap our fingers and say it doesn't happen, well, wouldn't that be better? So, yeah, and obviously I would argue that infants don't have any real capacity to interpret the world yet. There's no evolutionary reason to give them any complex sense organs because they can't do anything with them. So it just doesn't, you know, there's physical evidence that there's no point in making them too sensate. And the only thing they need is a mechanical process to get attention, which is crying, and so that's all they have. So you could argue that if you're going to say that it's too much trauma to be circumcised, then it's too much trauma to be born, and that all babies should be cesarean sectioned out of a woman because it's just too horrible to squish them through that terrible birth canal. So if you're going to make these arguments about the feelings of the fetus, you know, I think you're defeated by the fact that the natural process is quite brutal. Anyway, and nearly unrelated claims, unilateral, okay, maybe. Claims that it reduces any kind of sensitivity or sexual pleasure at all. Well, again, nobody can do any testimony to these things because nobody can relive their life being circumcised at birth and then not being circumcised after birth. And all you have is the later examples, which are quite different. I mean, getting circumcised later in life means that you had some reason to do it. So there's going to be a bias on that side. And there's no way to get uncircumcised later. And you can't change what your brain associates with your sensuality. I guess I would argue that it's better to have your brain using the neurons connected to the parts that matter, not the foreskin, which is protective skin. It's not there to be sensual skin, it's there to be protective skin, irritating skin even. So it's kind of a, why would I want my brain connected to that? So anyway, it's obviously it gets into a lot of complex neuropsychology, physiology stuff that you could argue about, but the whole fact that they just want to keep pretending these are inches of your dick you're cutting off, the rhetoric is just so stupid. They call it, see, my vocabulary is just gone. What do they call it? They call it some stupid word, mutilation. When obviously the people doing it to their own children are not mutilating their children. It's just a silly argument. They're not trying to stop them from this, and they're not trying to prevent that, and they're not trying to do all these evil things. They're doing something that they think is not only medically okay, it's a good idea, sanitary, whatever. It might fit into some religious context. But, obviously most of the people in America who got circumcised weren't getting circumcised for religious reasons, but whatever. Also, many different countries mentioned outlawing the practice entirely and claim great shame, mutilation in the practice. Well, I'm just saying, the rhetoric is so preposterously stupid. Some man you're saying is going to go mutilate his own son. It's just a retarded accusation. Clearly the man is saying, yeah, I did okay with it. Look at it, good wife, I had fun, it's working fine. No, I got no complaints. And they're saying, that's mutilation. To do something that you had done to yourself, that you have no complaints about, and now you think it's just fine to do it to my son, calling that mutilation is such silly, stupid, lame rhetoric that just shows how desperate they are. They don't have any good arguments for staying primitive. And so they have to make these idiotic arguments. Like I said, if we had such a procedure that would prevent hair from growing on your face, it would be an interesting conversation, right? I would argue that, yeah, it'd almost be doing me a favor just to get, because I'm really never going to be a full beard kind of person. I don't think the natural look, the full beardy face thing really looks that charming. I wouldn't feel more pretty, okay, in that condition. So, wouldn't it be logical to say, well, a little 10 minutes, procedure when, after birth, and you're free of, hair follicles on your face. So I think that would end up with the same kind of arguments. Some people are just going to be fanatic naturalists and say, no, you must shave your face for the rest of your life if you wish to get out of having a beard, because beards are so fucking cool. Well, no, they're not. Anyway, the foreskin is there for a reason that's obviously completely archaic. It doesn't have a real function anymore, okay? I'm not running naked through prickle bushes anymore. Fuck. Anyway, well, not, I would if I could. All right, anyway. Also, many different countries mention outlawing the practice. Okay, I did that. The idea that it'd stop masturbation, reduce the orgasm, or takes longer to climax. I remember you called it a hide. I don't know what that means. Well, it is, but I don't remember calling it that. But yeah, you might as well. I'm just saying, I just can't find anything it does that's really cool. Okay, everything about it seems to me to be all negatives, and there ain't any positives. So maybe to some people there's a positive in having a goopy dick, but I just don't see the positive in it. there seems to be a Nazi-like quality to people's overreaction to this subject. The overreaction thing will come up. I think somebody commented on the vape thing lately. I don't pay any attention to local trends or the news or any of that crap. It's just I've given up giving a fuck. But I was so surprised that there's all this hysteria about vaping because 6 completely unrelated cases really of people had lung failures, and there's no real medical connection between the deaths and vaping. These are all people that had compromised conditions in the first place. There's nothing. This isn't anymore. There's no like increase in the number of people that are actually having some sort of real health problem. So there's always people that drop dead, of any kind of condition, skin funguses or, just simple things. People cut their hand and get some sort of horrible bacteria and die. You can't relate it all to one thing. Well, anyway, there's just no connection, and it's just such a desperate overreaction over 6 people that are completely unrelated, really. I mean, there's just no evidence that vaping is the cause of their death. And it's just this hysteria, and you're just, and it's all this persecute the minority thing. Don't go after any majority vices. And in the context of 10,000 people dying every year from eating bad seafood, shellfish and shit, it's just hilarious. Like, this is what you get hysterical about? Oh, come on, you people are too silly. You obviously don't give a fuck about the victims. This has an agenda tied to it. You just don't like this idea of people being users, okay? And they certainly, this whole anti-tobacco nicotine addiction thing, let's beat up on the nicotine addicts. I mean, it's just such bullshit. And again, you just see how bad it is because of this rhetoric. This overreaction is just a demonstration of how this has nothing to do with what they say it has to do with. Nothing at all. This is just red herring, a Nazi-esque agenda. And that's all. It's like the abortion people, right? Most of the abortion people are people that can't get any, and they resent other people having liberal, free sex. They don't like that they get to have sex without making babies. And they just resent it. They resent their better life. And because they can't live it because they built this stupid Christian house on top of their head, and, it has all these spikes and all this pain and suffering they have to endure, they resent other people who don't have to wear the Christian, nail hat, and they want to try to put a nail hat on them. And it's just so bad. All right, your personal view on mental illness. Well, it's all over the place. Schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder, bipolar, and so on. Well, there's 10 million of them that aren't real conditions. I'd say that. This whole spectrum of, whatever that silly thing is, the kind of retardation, my brain's coming with Alzheimer's. Wrong. It's one of those A words, right? Well, anyway, that's silly. It's not silly. I mean, it's obviously was a form of retardation that they had a name, and then they decided to expand it into all kinds of crap, which was just silly. But anyway, yeah, the brains sometimes work and sometimes don't, and some people have buttons that are permanently pressed. They can't unpress the button, like the hysteria button or the hate button or some other button that's just constantly on, and they can't get past that, the problem that causes. It's like it's like starting your car, and if you just keep starting it after it's already running, you can hear the gears crushing, and it's the starter motor getting its old teeth ripped off, and and that's what's happening inside some people, and it's horrible. Yeah, no, I mean, what do you want me to say? I mean, I'm sort of mentally ill. I mean, so I understand, I understand. And then nobody else understands it, right? Especially if you have one of these little, you have a certain buttons that we don't even really know are there or something, kind of, you know, and so you have a disorder that is uncommon, 1 in 1,000 people. You know, people just look at it, what? You're not allowed to be broken that way. You know, excuse me. So it's yeah, it sucks. Your opinion of my videos and how they could have been improved. Well, I already did that for you, I think, back in the day. But anyway, I mean, you talked too fast. There was no, you know, it was just disconnected, non sequiturs. You know, yeah, it didn't have a start and a finish. Everything was just kind of, you know, right in the middle of a train wreck or something. But anyway, you know, it's watchable. But I just mean there was too many disconnected ideas that are too complex, that weren't dealt with, you know, with sufficient words. Something like that would be saying too much in too few words. Maybe that's it. What are your actual views on how the world looks in the next 100 years, and how the world will end and when? Well, it's obviously there's going to be a crash of some kind. I mean, the debt is insane. You know, sooner or later they won't be able to hide the bankruptcies. You know, they won't be able to bail everybody out to prevent the crash. So that's the key to the whole thing. Is that once you allow a certain number of people to go bankrupt, a certain number of corporations and other things, then they have to call in all the people that owe them money, and then those people go bankrupt, and then those people go, you know, and the bankruptcy spreads. And there's no FDIC insurance. It's completely a bankrupt system. So the protections they put in to prevent the horror, you know, the real horror, the run on the bank kind of stuff, all that's gone. And so eventually there'll be a crash, there'll be hyperinflation, you'll do the German thing, a loaf of bread will be $1 million, blah, 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 blah. And so nothing will be able to get produced because the economy will kind of fall apart. So the government will have to step in and have to make sure that food production stays high. It's, you know, certain different things are going to have to be forced to exist, so things don't get so, you know, because that's the worst thing of crashes, is that if you don't have mechanisms to keep certain things, the railroads running, then the railroads don't run, and then people can't get to work, and then people get, you know, and lots of other stuff starts breaking because the infrastructure falls apart. So something will have to step in and make sure the infrastructure stays functional. We still have drinking water, and we still have all that stuff. But it's going to be a real problem because everybody's going to be poor. You know, and so the economy is going to be much smaller. Anyway, what are your actual views on how the world looks in the next 100 years, and how will it end and when? Yes, the when thing I would have predicted 15 years ago. It should have ended. Okay, so and it really just depends. You know, simple little actions, you know, by government will save the day or ruin the day. And you know, this whole thing with all this diversity, that'll be part of the problem, because, you know, the identity of the country is going to have to rise out of all of that somewhere. And you know, diversity just creates more hostility, and there's so much hostility that it's hard to imagine there not being an awful lot of negative rioting, and small groups can really do stuff nowadays, you know, in terms of being destructive. It's like this whole Saudi Arabia thing just demonstrates that terrorists are getting more and more capable. You know, their technology is giving them the power to make such a mess, and that isn't going to get better. It's just going to keep getting worse. Alright, your view on different languages, cultures, anti-American sentiment, nationalism in various cultures in Europe and around the world in general. I don't know, like I said, it's being nationalistic beyond, like I said, if I say the word America, I'm not saying, oh, our Constitution is great, our democracy is fantastic, we've treated the world so well, we're great, I'm just saying you're used to a way of life, okay? And so there's certain things about America that are admirable. Let's say we had TV commercials with crying Indians, you know, to try to keep things clean, and we you know, we gave a hoot and didn't pollute, and we do these different little things. You say, okay, those are good things to have, good memes, good ideas. And we've sort of lost all of that now, and it's people just speed down the road and they make as much noise as they want to, and they don't give a fuck about anybody else, and no one's very considerate, and it's just kind of disgusting. So if that's nationalistic of me to say I want people to have my kind of habits, you know, I want them to have these certain expectations of behavior, you know, that's civil, yeah, so I'm nationalistic then. Because it's a pain in the ass when people have very different expectations of how, you know, what's rude. There's a notion that that education and politics solely in America are poor and bad, and that any country in Europe or Asia surpasses U.S. on this front. Well, again, I wouldn't. You know, so this is all this crap about, yeah, would you actually want to actually have to live somewhere else and all that kind of crap? Are there better places to live? There might be. Maybe it's nice in the south of France right now. I don't know. You know, maybe there's some places in Germany aren't a bad place to live. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. But I'm sure it's just places, and that there's places in those countries that suck. So, you know, sorry, making sounds. It's cold. How much ignorance and envy it must take to have such an opinion? Question mark. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know what your point is. If you think these are the issues that matter, they're really not. Because that's just part of the world becoming a smaller place, and as pointed out, the whole idea that technology will mean that small groups of people have the power to make huge messes and all that kind of stuff. So there's real problems, and these are the little problems that, you know, just boil up into those problems. But this whole idea of recognizing that, that there's a certain you know, we have to live, certain rules have to be durable and reliable. And it's like the handshake thing in the old days. You shook a guy's hand or whatever, or the blood brother thing. Certain things have to mean something to people, and if they don't mean anything, if people can cross you even though they shook your hand or did that, you know, then there's just no civilization. And the world is looking a little bit too much like that. Like all the rules are being broken. I am a hypochondriac, and much of my continued pain and conscious fear has come from my experience with it. What is your understanding of something like this? Well, knowledge, like I said, it will kind of make you into a hypochondriac, in the sense that you will be much more concerned than the average person, but that concern is legitimate. I mean, once you know some statistics, you'll know that, oh, I didn't realize I was taking a 1 in 100 chance of dying tonight. You know, so, but that's the point, is recognizing the difference between 1 in 100 and 1 in 10 million. So yeah, if you're paranoid about stuff that there's a 1 in 10 million chance of, then, you know, you've got to fix that. But yeah, I understand. I look at it as I'm aging, you get to feeling more and more vulnerable and more paranoid. And paranoia is sort of natural, so, you know, if you almost got hit by a car, it's, you know, you're supposed to be a little paranoid about your next encounter. You know, I don't know what to say. So, I mean, I can't discount it. I'm just saying, obviously, there's a point where it gets hysterical and out of proportion. And, you know, but it is hard to control those kind of physiological reactions. So I have my own trouble doing that. Your view on medications and drugs, e.g., psychedelics, cannabis. If you think those off-the-shelf kind of things have any value, even the ones they deliberately make to try to treat something have so many other effects. So it's, you know, I've pointed out it's the difference between a scalpel and a, you know, a putty knife. I mean, you just don't do surgery with putty knives. So, yeah, good luck with that. But it's been my experience anyway that whatever you get, you lose just as much somewhere else. So it's, or more, frankly. So I haven't had much luck. Sometimes it's just what the doctor ordered. Sometimes you hit, sometimes a sledgehammer's the right tool, and it worked just perfect. But in a lot of cases, it's not going to be the right tool. What is your view on intelligent quotient? It depends on who's writing it, right? I mean, it's such a, it's like you could test hand-eye coordination by having somebody shoot baskets or something, and then throw rocks into a bucket or some other way of testing a certain skill. But this idea that you can qualify what intelligence is, I mean, obviously to be intelligent in the sense of trivia, you can know trivia and you can seem very intelligent because you can answer lots of questions of what's the capital of this and what's the capital of that and who was the first man to blah blah blah. And that's a kind of intelligence, but it's not the kind of intelligence that makes you capable of reading a road map or understanding concrete. You can't have too big a piece of concrete because it'll crack and blah blah blah, or you have to reinforce it with steel bars, or you have to do something, so there's different kinds of intelligence. And so this idea that you can sort of measure intelligence is kind of tricky. That's, I guess, all I say. You're measuring a certain kind of capacity, I suppose. But most intelligence tests mix a bunch of different kinds of skills, and I would argue by mixing those skills, some of those skills aren't really skills. They just have to do with how much time you spent, whether you had to work when you were a kid or whether you watch TV. Maybe you learn more if you watch TV. That guy's silly, stupid little things. So I don't know if they're really testing. It's just too imprecise as science, in my opinion. All right, philosophy, YouTube, nihilism, and its prevalence. Why do people misunderstand philosophy reaching conclusions? Well, I don't know what that even means, so sorry I can't answer a question. Its prevalence. Why do people misunderstand philosophy? I don't know what that means. Reaching conclusions. I don't know. Why is philosophy confused with concluded facts? Well, that's the whole point of having facts, is to make more of them. And some of the more facts you're making are conclusions. So there's nothing wrong with drawing conclusions based on the existing facts. So that doesn't, I don't know what you're saying there. And why is it so open-ended for people to point to the point of delirium and delusion as to not reach any conclusions? So I don't know why you're focusing on conclusions when people can't even assess the quality of facts, which is a kind of conclusion, right? I mean, obviously the facts indicating there's a God are dismally pitiful. I mean, there's almost more, the counterfacts are more obvious. The fact that these are just fables from the past, that none of these stories were real. The fact that they don't even make sense in the context of the times, in the sense that the disciples of Jesus all kind of betrayed him as if they lacked faith in this existence of this God. And these are the same people who are given the capacity to heal. They were given magic powers by Jeebus, and yet they still didn't believe. They watched Jesus raise the dead, and they still didn't really believe. I mean, so obviously these things didn't happen. People play with philosophy too much. Well, I don't know what that is, but I don't know what your point was, but I don't like it necessarily. Irreducible complexity and impossibility of miracles. Why do you think it is so hard for people to understand that this is wrong, or it seems so? fuck you. I don't know what to even say to that. You believe in miracles? You're an idiot. And there's no such thing as an irreducible, in my opinion. The universe is run by a mechanical system that gets simpler and simpler and simpler. It should go further and further backward. Did you ever have any problem assimilating to society? Duh. Seeing people as malicious. Now, I never worried about other people. I just worried about, in terms of them being dangerous. I just didn't understand them. Betraying, lying, neurotic. Yeah, just disappointing when people disappointed you. It was disappointing. I don't know what to say to that. In your interactions to simply befriend them. Well, it's something I guess I sort of learned just from my own introspection, was I realized that I had friends that were convenient to me. And so I realized that other people might be my friend because I'm convenient. I have a car, or I have money, I can, I got pot, and that might be the only use I really have, is to be a pot dispenser. So, I did realize that rather young, that friendships are always a little bit tainted. They always have subversive purposes, or whatever you want to call them, on these underlying reasons for the maintenance of the relationship. And there has to be some kind of need involved somewhere, and that's unfortunate. We all are exploitonists and users. It just kind of sucks. And if you do it any other way, obligation, and it just becomes an obligation, a chore. Oh yeah, well, I told them I'd do it, so okay. It's just, so it's there's a lot of negative in our interaction. Did you have a hard time meeting anyone or making friends? Well, I was certainly quite introverted, so I wasn't exactly very comfortable with groups of people, or people in general, or meeting people. I never really liked introductions, and I didn't like saying hello, and I didn't like saying goodbye. So, alright. It seems that I do. Yeah, well, I don't, sorry, but I don't know how you fix that kind of stuff. Those kinds of personality quirks are kind of conditioned into you, just like how you speak English. So I suppose you could create a falsetto personality and try to be the opposite of who you are by nature, but it's not easy. It's probably something everybody should practice, being somebody else for a little while. What is your opinion of current vogue trends, memes, fashion? Yeah, I wouldn't have any clue. I could say that fashion is really hilarious. I see all these. I don't get it at all. The knicker thing, wearing shorts that go below your knees. Why bother? Why bother? Why bother wearing shorts that go below your knees? Come on. It's just no fucking point. With boots. But everything is, it's all been taken over by the diversers. Okay, the diversers have turned everything into shit. So, I don't get any of it, frankly. All trend. I don't get the whole, shave the side of your head, and then have hair. I don't get any of that shit. No, it's fucking bizarre. And I certainly don't get the beardy man thing that's going on and all that kind of crap. I think they look like shit. But who cares? People probably have a good laugh at me. Who cares? Fuck it. I don't get their shit, and they don't have to get mine. Alright. I'll leave it at this, and hopefully you can get through it all. Thank you. Okay. Anyway. So a little personal stuff is okay, but I don't want to make this a routine. So anyway. Over a decade, and I'm still watching inmendham. Yeah, likewise. I've been doing it, too, for a long time. I wish I knew of him before this last year. Without him, I was just another miserable person. Well, I'm not really big on that whole misery loves company thing, but whatever. Never really worked for me. I got a broken leg. I gotta go find somebody else with a broken leg, and my broken leg will feel better. I don't think so. All right, should we send library monoliths out in every direction in space with knowledge of our failure and convince other life to give up if they happen to be similar rut that we are in? Well, it'd be nice to have a conversation just to acknowledge the fundamental thing that's going to happen to all organisms, that were the byproduct of evolution. So again, if some other species, you know, like a reptile of some kind, was to gain intelligence, you know, they could have the conversation. Yeah, hey, look at the way I'm designed. I'm designed to be this, you know, terribly inconsiderate and rude monster. You know, boy, that sucks. I mean, intelligence is always going to be better than our nature. So, you know, and our nature is always going to be easily ridiculed by intelligence. Should we end life on possible dinosaur planets? Well, yeah, I've kind of speculated about that whole idea, is that the end game probably should have in it making some little viral probes, you know, that just drift through space and reproduce themselves on other planets, and then just multiply, and all they do is seek out, you know, biological life, and, you know, ask it like 3 questions. Hello, can you hear me? And if they don't answer, blow them up. Yeah. So anyway, what about leaving robots? Yes, AI is very good. Just leave robots behind, yes, to do the job, yes. Yep. Okay, I've been making the same arguments against nihilism. The concept of being both a sentient human and a nihilist is incoherent. It's just complete. Yeah, you're not doing logic anymore. If you're a feeling organism and you say it doesn't matter how you feel, fuck you. You're doing it wrong. You're insane. What the fuck is happening here? Good question. I don't get that at all, but whatever. So here's a Flyora. Oh, thanks for mentioning me. She says more on the other one. Stop it, you're fine. Well, she's obviously not fine, but anyway. Hey there, I don't take this wrong way because I'm just offering what I feel is helpful advice, but have you considered cutting down on the weed? I know it can feel amazing to cope using it, but it's not a harmless plant like some say. I personally know how it can induce psychotic episodes. It's worth it to try slowly coming off the weed, not cold turkey, and then taking a fresh look at reality. Well, I never found it addictive at all in any physical way, so I can't really say that you should. Cold turkey seems fine. Also, don't worry, we're all crazy people. But yeah, it is an interesting subject, the weed thing. But anyway, tobacco is the that's the tricky one. I mean, I can't testify to life without nicotine because I haven't done it since I was 11 years old. I just don't know what life without nicotine would be like. But I wasn't too comfortable when I was 11, so I know it probably isn't going to make a difference. Anyway, those who try to find comfort in sorrow will be bound to empty and hollow, and the emptiness cannot be filled with anything other than truth itself. Okay, well, it's not human life. It doesn't have white people in it, but this is unironically. I wonder what that meant. It's not human life if it doesn't have white people in it. Yes, so I was making kind of a rhetorical joke. This is unironically. I don't know what that means. How about you unironically pissing off racist asshole? Oh, okay. Oof. Racist. Ha 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 ha. I don't know what that means. But anyway, yeah. Whatever. Whatever I said, and I'm perfectly satisfied I said it adequately. I went to Disneyland yesterday for the day. I wasn't an anti-natalist. Life was. I think I read this before, right? I think so. I mean, I'm just not big on these satire comments. Yes, the truth should be interesting. Another solid video, Gary. It seems like I read this, but I don't know how I could have comments before that I hadn't read. But anyway, inmendham, I've been on something of a haze around here. Okay. Definitely not gone for good. Solid points, good video. Oh, the Allen guy. Yeah, okay. Well, life happens and such. No doubt ethical veganism represents only a minuscule fragment of applying a suffering minimization type model. Well, the point is, it's just the nature of nature is so bad. These type of economics seem to be giving some people purely around over. Well, I don't know if I want to read all this. I must deal with the truth. The real argument is just getting people to acknowledge that the nature of the game is a negative game. It is a you're whipped into everything, and all you're getting out of it is sometimes they stop whipping me, you know, and that's your good time. The world is just a barrel organ which the Lord God turns himself. Well, whatever that means. We all dance to the tune which is already on the drum. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, there's a deterministic universe and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I mean, the universe, you know, is doing its thing. And in this version of the universe, this is the thing it's doing, which sucks. I don't mean version like there's other universes. I just mean version, and if it was to do it over and over and over again through some process, that it would have different outcomes. At first I was very interested in what Flora had to say. She seemed to be an ethicist. Then she made a video denouncing ethicalism because she loves nature. She can't seem to comprehend the objective fact that all life is born to be slaughtered, and that nature is not on the side of sentient. Well, it's not on the side of the average. That's the point. The point is, it obviously is the biggest mass murderer of children, you know, imaginable. I mean, it's just so bad. I mean, he makes Freddy Krueger look like such a nice guy. And that nature is not on the side of sentient life of any kind, and be it a frog or a human. Yes. Nostalgia is a poison for misfits. Oh, that's an interesting statement, but it's like saying habit is a, you know, a complex of the crippled or something. You know, we're creatures of habit. All creatures like habits. They like to be able to know when they go here, certain things will happen, and certain things are here, and certain things, there's no crocodiles in their drinking water, you know, that kind of stuff. I had a like relationship and kind of wanted to mourn, but couldn't after adapting to society. I have strong mental blocks. Well, whatever. You're called Soylent Green, and then, you know, as if you're sort of making a point. And, you know, the funny thing about the Soylent Green as a story is that when you really think about it, there's nothing bad about the Soylent Green thing. Okay, the potato chips are people. So what? They still taste good. I mean, it's a real solution in a sense. I mean, obviously, I don't think you could, you know, physically you wouldn't fix a food shortage problem by eating people, because there's just not enough nutrient and value in the people. There's not enough calories. But the fact that you're eating dead people, who cares? So what? What's the difference between eating dead people and eating dead other animals? That wouldn't make any difference. But the fact is yes, if you can turn something shitty, like if you can just turn horse shit into a tasty potato chip and it satisfied you and was good food, how did you lose? There's no losing in that circumstance. Anyway, hey, don't say sucks to Indonesia. I know you hate Muslims. That's not the problem. Well, whatever. You know, you just don't get the problem. The problem is you put people in jail, all right, for insignificant crimes, and it's retarded. And you kill them because your jails suck. Video game has been shown to help improve cognition. Video games have been shown to help improve cognition. And then he puts a comma. Increase helpful behaviors. Well, I don't think you've proven that one. And even increase physical fitness. Okay, so that's where, so again, the arguments, they're so desperate to make an argument that they go way over the top and say something completely idiotic. And even increase physical fitness. I mean, that's, on average, you think that's what video games have done. The people playing video games, on average, as a whole group, have lost 20 pounds and are in better physical shape than people who don't play video games. I mean, it's such an outrageously silly statement. You're just saying, well, if that's what you've shown somewhere, you haven't shown that anywhere. That's nonsense, absolute nonsense. So here's another desperate person trying to defend something, and they're doing it with this just desperate bullshit. Again, how is playing video games a waste of your life? I didn't say it was a waste of your life. Did I? No. So you can't even get that right? You're so used to playing video games that you can't even do English correctly. I said it's a waste of your potential. You can't be productive. You're dead wood. Okay, you have no social utility. You're a consumer, not a producer. As you have said previously, I said if they made the video game so you were actually doing something, like you play the video game and in the process of playing the video game you solve some mathematical problem that needed solving, or you monitoring security at something, or you're doing something while you're playing the video game, that would be great. But any kind of games that they try to install some sort of social value, like you could learn physics by playing the video game, or you could learn biology, or you could become a doctor. Anytime they try to make it a little bit added value, you don't want to play, because all you want to do is shoot shit. You don't want to do anything sophisticated or complicated in the process of your game. You don't want your game, to be too complex. And that makes it even worse, when you can't even play a complex game. If you think video games are a waste, that's not what I said, then so are other hobbies like sports, reading, fiction, TV, gardening. And when did I ever say they weren't? When did I say something good about sports, you idiot? So again, you just can't get this argument right at all. And even if there are other activities that need to be insulted, that human beings participate in, that doesn't change the argument about the video game. So again, you're just such a poor arguer. We all need some buzz to get us through the day. That wasn't the argument. The argument wasn't whether you needed you want to spend an hour a day or some other kind of thing. Everybody watches maybe a little TV or does this or does that. Fine, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who are absorbed by it. They're now living in that world. Get us through the day in this capitalistic corporate slave environment. So again, just more cop-outs, more scapegoats. The corporation maybe do it. No. And I have seen people waste their lives away in their rooms doing nothing else but playing video games and developing no other skills in life. Yes, I'm getting a fat ass. You can honestly live a pretty good secondary life, gain status from being a high rank, and have good statistics among other peers. Consistent competition with encourages you to play much more, create. Well, the competitive video gaming, I think, is destructive to psychologies, because again, that's just more of this I'm addicted to the fix, and so that doesn't, I don't think that gets you anywhere. And what does it create? It creates a bunch of cheaters, you end up with hackers, a bunch of negative skills. It can keep a brain occupied in that setting much more stronger than reading, TV, other hobbies you listed. Well, the depth of a video game is quite limited, so I'm going to argue that I don't think it can have, I don't think you're going to incorporate into the video game the access you have on the internet, for example, to so much information. It's just not going to be able to narrow to have the video game be able to put all of that information in the coherent form it can be in when you're moving through the process of. You have to do some things. You have to watch the first lecture before you watch the 7th lecture, kind of thing. Especially when electronic sports, especially with electronic sports growing, it won't be any different from sports soon. I don't know what that means. A lot of young people using esports as an excuse to spend thousands of hours gaming, whilst only a fraction of them actually become professional gamers. Yeah, so it's just more just another version of another form of Olympics, more losers than winners. Millions of kids literally wasting their teenage years in a trivial endeavor. Like I said, I didn't say most of it isn't a waste. There is some value to problem solving that's in video games, and so that's all good stuff, but it's too narrow. There's just not enough in the game. There's not enough. It's like learning how to nail a nail perfectly, and there's more to life than just nailing nails perfectly. And most getting nothing out of it, and worst having any skills or passion to do anything ends up being a false hope. Well, it also is, it makes you less tolerant of the imperfections of reality, because the video game can maximize the pursuit experience, and the whole idea that mistakes are never fatal, and you can always just reload, and you can try again, and it has lots of elements that are very comforting, and make it much more fun. Where real life, you spill the milk and I got to spend 15 minutes cleaning up all these little pieces of glass, or whatever, that kind of thing. It's really simple. God is described as being benevolent, well-meaning, and kindly. That's just sorry. The evidence truth is nature provides us with a scenario of ferocious predator and horrified prey. Yeah, pretty much. Is an obvious contradiction of benevolent. Yes, described as omnipotent. They have all this. These God arguments are pretty simple. It's kind of obvious. The evolution arguments are kind of overt in your face. It's just, it pops in my head every now and then. The Galapagos Islands, there's an owl that doesn't fly, and he hunts just like a cat. And what is he hunting? Other birds. So he's kind of become a cannibal. He's hunting other birds by not flying. By getting them when they're taking off and landing, and because they live in the rocks, and the owl just stalks like a cat. And why would God invent that? It's just too silly. Fuck Indonesia, okay. I hate to bring Goodwin's Law here, but she's parroting a Nazi and overall supremacist talking point that some people deserve to breed and others don't. Well, there certainly should be standards for the mere capacity to have some hope, of successful, like even just the idea of a bird building a nest. I've used this metaphor before, but it's just so obvious that you don't lay eggs in shit. And so if you can't elevate the egg out of the shit, you got no business laying eggs. Alright, old man yells at Amazon. I don't know what that means, but who cares? I find it sad, disconcerting, and confusing. A man of this intellect cannot see the positive side of life. Well, I overtly said in the video that I do see the positives. Okay, but I understand what they are. I'm being manipulated by those positives, and I'm just saying that the positives are really just the thank you for not whipping me. I mean, they're nothing you shouldn't be grateful, okay, for not being beat up. Count of mischief. He thinks he's referring to a tight pussy, pure cocaine, etc. Short-lived highs. Yeah, well, that's the whole point. So, yeah, you can't, what positives you speak of. This whole idea of defining the positive ends up just getting you back to some fantasy, that mostly will have to do with, for some of us, the positives always have something to do with, the V. Well, anyway. And it doesn't have anything to do, there's no others. That's the only one that really matters. I mean, all the rest of the stuff is just to get the vagina thing, right? I mean, everything else you would want is, I want a good car, I want this, I want that. Everything else is just some sort of bullshit to try to attract the shit you want. And the pleasure you're getting out of it is just to relieve your torment, So, I mean, again, it's just, it's just putting ointment on your whipping wounds. You should search oral sex demon. Oh, I don't know if I want to do that. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, I don't know what that's doing there. As usual, a male assumes. Oh, this is the nutty racist bicycle woman thingy. As usual, a male assumes his perspective is we. I don't know what that. Led around by his schlong, males only trust info from their own porn-addled brains or from the porn-addled brains of other males. Prove it. Where's your evidence? Say something smart. Okay, let's do a test. Let's see if you can say something smart and see if I can identify that as smart. It's just like blaming men, because you can't do anything right. Ugh. Anyway, when you're in love, you jump. I mean, men just suck. But women who are trying to be men suck more. Alright, when you're in love, you jump laughing into a circular saw. So, yeah, well, when you're in love, I mean, I don't even know what that means. So, you mean when you're finding a girl attractive? When you're imagining playtime? Is that, what is love? What has love got to do with it? Whatever the hell that is. I don't know if you're aware, but there has been a whole debate on banning vaping. Yeah, this is a vaping comment, okay, because it supposedly causes lung cancer. No, because it supposedly killed 6 unrelated people because they were all in some feeble condition. I'm a guy who actually did have, lung cancer. Was one of the fatalities. It's like he already had lung cancer. Alright, I find it hilarious how society goes up in arms about vaping when alcohol has caused more destruction of the human race, but no, just because 8 people have died, supposedly vaping ban it. Super logical. I mean, it is just such an example of how politics is so broken. These reactionary do-gooders are just so dangerous, and because they don't really want to do good. They're scapegoaters. So they're just looking for something to scapegoat. Vaping is why Trump is president. Vaping is why, some kind of stupid thing. And it's just so fucking stupid. People don't believe in God because of vaping. I mean, it makes just so no sense. And it's just so funny. Because what they really see, the politicians started because they know they want the money. They can't figure out how to tax vaping, too complicated, so they can't get any revenue. And that's what's got them bugged, is they're losing the revenue from the cigarette smokers. And they want to be able to steal the minority people money. And that's all it's about. They want somebody to tax the other guy. And it's totally unconstitutional. The whole approach is just so wrong. And it's just so self-interested and... obviously so. This has nothing to do with anybody with any sincere motivation. Because if they had any sincere motivation, they'd figure out that, oh, it's so damn good that those nicotine addicts aren't ingesting a bunch of carcinogens. That's just so much better that they won't have that health risk anymore. And clearly there's not a huge increase in nicotine addicts because of vaping. So a bunch of people aren't choosing to vape nicotine who never vaped nicotine. So it's not like you're making a whole bunch of nicotine addicts. And what else is there to complain about? I don't even see people vaping on the street anywhere, ever. I'm always out on the porch vaping. It's just funny. All this hysteria, for what? It's insane. It just really is. Kurt Vonnegut. I don't know if I want to do that. Oh, here's a file or a comment. We'll see what she says. I'm going through a nervous breakdown. I have been going through, would probably be the way to say that. I don't know who to tell. I'm panicking because of abandonment paranoia. Losing important things. Well, no. Also because nothing lasts forever. Yes, that's annoying. And I can't trust myself or rely on myself. Yes, well, that's a little bit... yeah. I'm screwed because of addiction and dependent. What helps? How not to panic? Well, all you have is the perspective. You can see something and you can say, okay, I'm afraid of snakes, like snakes. In Australia, you have good reason to be afraid of them, though. But you can just say, I have to be able to deal with this. I have this hysterical fear. I have to turn it into less fear. So all you can do is with perspective, and just recognize, well, it's not a crocodile. All right, it doesn't have a weight advantage. I weigh a lot more than it. Yes, it's very fast and can do some things, but doesn't have any legs. It can't, and there's certain limitations. So you can just try to diminish it by understanding its capacities. And so the only way you can deal with issues of these kinds of fears is just to recognize, well, what's the worst that can happen, and then try to understand that the worst isn't going to happen, and that even if it was the worst, maybe you can figure out how to row in that boat. So what? You're in a rowboat with only one oar. Well, maybe you can figure it out. I don't know what to say, but that's all you got to work with is your own mental perspective and finding some way to say, it's okay. But it's really not. I don't know what I don't know what to say. Yeah, it's like, some of this stuff is legitimately fearable. I guess it's just understanding that there's no point in allowing it to get you into a emotional habit, or something. And just don't be too reactionary. Try to control the internal reaction and just say it's an internal reaction. How I react to the color red, okay, once I know I'm reacting, maybe there's some ways I can just say, well, just pretend it's blue, fuck it. Just so the triggers don't go off. Or just try to say the reaction is the only thing I can control. I can't control the world. All I can control, all that is within my being the part of you that acknowledges there's a problem, that program or whatever. Its only power is to say the only thing you can deal with is the stuff, your reaction, right? So that your reaction ends up creating more trouble than good. So because you react to the world and then the world bounces it back to you bad again. I'm just saying that the only part of this poison, this problem, you can fix, so to speak, or control. See, these are tricky words. It's your reaction. So work on that part. Just work on the part where think about something horrible and then try not to physiologically feel sick or feel bad. maybe that'll help. But it's all conditioning. See, I mean, this is all the thing. Like, once you get conditioned into bad habits, it's reconditioning is difficult. I mean, liking a food you don't like is difficult. Hating a food you do like is difficult. Changing your tastes and your habits is difficult. So, yeah, I don't know what to say. I am not that good at it. I mean, I'm surviving. I've gotten by. But, yeah, I haven't done it very well. I've done it well enough. But, yeah, well, whatever. I don't have no advice. I don't know. I'm the wrong person to ask. But, yeah, I'm lucky. I'm not a success story by any other. It's hard to say. I mean, you could, I don't know what to say. You do find a way to survive. So I guess that's all I can say. It will happen. You will find a way to survive it. You'll find the capacity somewhere inside of you to do it if push comes to the shove and you have to. Kind of. Maybe. I don't know. Or not. See, that's the problem. I can't testify to successes where I failed, and I can't testify to failure where I've succeeded. I can't do both and know both. Something like that. Anyway. Funny thing, I think it was around the time where, I'm like 60 days from being 60. Just kind of spooky. Never, so in that sense I succeeded, and I lasted till, there's just no way I thought I would get this old. But, I did it. Even in spite of not intending to, it did happen. So anyway. Okay, that's probably enough. Right? Yeah, I don't know if there's anything too outstanding up here. Sorry, I just run out of, can't be doing this all day. Anyway, and, the computer will fail and then the video will be ruined. He would run for the hills. If Inmendham was drafted, what do I think? A military draft? Yeah, well, drafts are just kind of tricky business, right? If you can't get your people to give a shit, then maybe there shouldn't be a shit given. So I'm kind of against it in principle. That, yeah, you really should be able to get people to go without forcing them to, if the cause is worth it. The cause should create the army, not some mechanism that says I'm just going to force you to be, a slave to this project. Yeah, this idea that I wouldn't mind, killing the pro-lifers when, yeah, I could get motivated. So anyway, till the next time, and such, and so forth, and whatnot. I think that's enough.